Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Bait Shop Talk. I'm your host, Joe. Uh, Tim couldn't be with us right now at the moment. Well, we got Bubba with Bubba Outdoors,
What's up, guys?
and we got our special guest here, Frank, aka Ugly Pike, on YouTube from the Great North. How you doing out there, Frank?
Hello, hello. Doing good.
That's good to hear. Guys, tonight's video is brought to you by Vexen. Strike first with Vexen rods. Go ahead and check them out. There should be a link down in the description below. If I ain't got one now, I'll put one here later. So, Frank, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to all of us down here in the South? Tell us what your channel's about and what you like to do.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on. It's a lot of fun to participate in podcasts and talk about fishing, even with guys that are in a different country. And fishing for a whole different. We were having a discussion right before we started going live, and talking about the different types of fisheries we teach and seasonalities and good things and bad things. But it's always nice to come on and talk and just shoot the breeze. But our channel is Ugly Pike. We do. My friend Chris just came up to me one day and said, "Hey, I want to do a podcast." And I just looked at him and I said, "Okay, let's do it." And we didn't really expect much, and just kind of did a few episodes. We did 4 episodes, and we posted them. And I said, if we get 100 people listening, I'll be happy. And fast forward 11 months, we've been doing this 11 months now, and we are just about at 13,000 downloads for our show. And it's been a wild ride. So that's primarily what we do, the podcast. We do some apparel drops every now and then. A couple times a year, we'll drop some T-shirts or something like that in limited batches. But other than that, we're on the water, trying to take advantage when the season's open and trying to pound, and that's it.
I'll tell you what, he's selling himself short a little bit here. His YouTube is not their focus. It's the uglypike.ca, right? Because they're Canadian. That's where their podcast is mostly based out of. They got some really sweet clothing, which, we don't even have muskie down here, but I've considered buying some of it because it's really good looking. They do some really cool stuff with that. And their podcast, they get a lot of
freshwater barracuda.
Right, pretty much, yeah, and they get a lot of really awesome guests on their podcast too. Like they was just we were talking about before we went live here. They had Al Lindner on Lindner on
Lindner.
Yeah. There's too many N's in there. It's confusing. But they get a lot of really cool guests on there too. It's a good listen for like me. Like I said, I listen to it, and we don't even have muskie. So yeah, sell himself a little bit short there.
I appreciate that. We wanted to get Al Lindner to help us against some legislation that's being proposed in Minnesota. It's called SF 3319, and it's a real blow to the muskie fishery down there. Some of the changes that some of the people want to see, but can't really substantiate and can't really refute some of the science that's out there. It's a really tense situation, but Mr. Lindner was nice enough to come on and help kind of put together the state the case why it's a bad idea and share the information through the podcast so people could arm themselves with the knowledge. We got lucky with that one. Holy cow.
Right. Is that I think I read something about that. Is that where the landowners on a certain lake didn't want muskies introduced into it? Is that correct?
It wasn't that they didn't want muskies. They wanted to stop certain stocking programs in certain lakes.
That's it.
They wanted to reduce the minimums that you could keep these fish. Right now, the minimums to keep a muskie are sky high, right? If you want to keep an old fish that's done reproducing and all that sort of thing and is kind of in its later years, and it's, that's fine. But they don't, one of the keys to keeping a good fishery is keeping your fertile your brisk fertile fish, keeping them in the population and having them reproduce. And there were a lot of different things that would contribute negatively to the population of muskies in that motion. So quite a few things, and people are freaking out up there. I don't blame them.
Right. We kind of got the same thing going on down here in Florida, where it's the fishermen versus the state. Right now in Florida, the Florida Wildlife Commission has been spraying weeds like crazy. There's pretty much just going to be a barren swimming pool. And of course, as you know, even with muskie, you got to have aquaculture and weeds and stuff for the little fish to hide in and the plankton and everything you produce. Well, they're spraying all the lily pads, hydrilla, water hyacinths, everything, and of course that's got bass fishermen up in uproar down here, and we're trying to fight it.
Right. So I think it's a lot of times you get these conflicts when bureaucrats try to step in and take the reins away from the biologists and the scientists, right, and the anglers and the people who I don't think people realize, people that just some bureaucrat working in some office trying to weigh in on this issue realizes how much effort good anglers put into being responsible with fish on the water and handling fish, especially with the fish that we fish for up here, muskie. They're very, very fragile. They're fierce looking, but they're extremely fragile fish. And so the responsibility, the sense of duty that we have, and I'm sure you guys are the same way down there, you can't underestimate that. And these people, they weigh in sometimes on these matters without really realizing that we've been paying attention to these things for years, and we've got the best interests of the community at stake, and we're talking to the scientists, and we're staying involved.
Right. There's new people joining right now. Wizard and Frank's talking. They're thinking they're on the wrong podcast because they missed the intro. Let's go ahead and we'll jump into it. Saltwater fishing. I managed to go do a little bit of saltwater fishing. I took the kayak out. I heard reports that the Spanish mackerel were here, and I tried to get out there to them, but the breakers were just too much for me to chance it. First time out, I didn't have anybody with me. So I just decided to stay in the inlet, and all I could manage to get was some nasty bluefish. I know our friends in around New England, New York, and the Northeast, they love a good bluefish, but not me. I wouldn't. Their skin or their meat's real mushy to me. So either I use them for shark bait or I just let them go. If you didn't watch that video, the video I'm talking about is one where I found the seagull all wrapped up in ridiculous 50-pound mono. I did my best to try to help him out, but he's just been struggling too long. He didn't make it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and hit him over my channel. Check that out. Saltwater bite. It was still cold. The water temperature was around 67, 68. Not quite warm enough for the Spanish or even the reds to come out there into the inlets. The reds are still kind of back in the creek. When the 72 is the magic temperature we're waiting for. 72 degrees. The cobia and the king mackerel and everything should start coming in off the beach. So all those guys that do beyond the breakers fishing, I'm sure they're rigging up and getting ready. Tournaments. Went out. We had a tournament a couple weeks ago. If you guys don't know, which you're going to hear the story here a little bit later with Bubba, the boat is down yet again. Guys, do yourself a favor. Learn from my mistake. Take your outboard to our actual dealer. If you have Yamaha, Evinrude, Mercury, Suzuki, take it to the dealer to have them work on it. Don't hire some guy out of the Yellow Pages or wherever, like a mobile mechanic, or he really doesn't have an affiliation with that that can back up that work. I had my power head replaced, and apparently the cause of the problem of the initial blow up did not get fixed, and it happened again with me and Bubba out there in the middle of the St. Johns River. Thank God it was a nice day. So because of that, my bass tournament, I had to fish as a co-angler. I was fishing out of the back of a fishing ski. When was the last time you fished out of the back of a fishing ski, Bubba? Been a while?
I have never fished out of the back of a fishing ski. I have been on one wakeboarding, but never fished on one.
It wasn't too bad. Slow day. I missed more fish than I got in. If I could have actually brought in every bass that I had, either they were taking the worm real lightly. Either you'd think they would have it and you'd give them time, and when you set the hook, you would come back. They would take your rubber worm and you'd have just a hook. I think I set a record for the amount of mudfish / bowfin caught during a bass tournament. I guarantee I caught at least 12 to 15. If I could have weighed in those, because there was some about 5-6 pounds, I would have won that tournament very, very easily. What was the winning weight? Winning weight was like 17 pounds and some change. The biggest fish was 7.5 pounds, and of course they were pretty tight-lipped. about how they caught that. But my fish, I ended up getting like a one that weighed 1 pound and then a 4-pounder. But tournament sometimes, you know, if you don't walk away, the win points. At least you got to show up, at least get points so I can try to make the classic. So I got my boat at the dealership, letting them tear it down, replace the piston. And then I'm probably going to be done with this boat, guys. I'm probably going to end up selling this boat. That's just God's way of telling me it's time for an upgrade. So that's what I'm going to do. Bubba?
Yeah, I mean, hey, that only benefits me. I'm selfish. Get rid of it, Joe. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, who are you to argue with God? You got to.
That's right.
He keeps blowing my boat up. He doesn't want me to have it, I guess.
Yep. So before, you know, we kind of jump into that backwater stuff that I do, just like Frank was talking about earlier, just being good stewards on the water. If you didn't see that video Joe was talking about, was out there paddling around the inlet and found a seagull all wrapped up in like 50-pound mono from those bridge fisherman type people, breaking it off, not throwing it away. Come on, guys. Throw your line away. Don't throw it in the water. There's no need for that. Even if it is just a seagull, we don't need that kind of stuff going. Next time it's you know, like a sea turtle or a fish or something like that. Come on. So I will take, because Tim's not here, I'll tell you about ponds, and I'll give you a little tip while we're talking about ponds too. Florida, all of Florida has been raining all week. Water temps have been up before that because we were almost in drought conditions, like 19 days with no rain, I think it was. And temperatures were up around 90. So the water temp was getting up to, you know, it was almost 80 inland for water temps. And then the ponds, you know, now that they're cooled down with the water, they're getting kind of flooded out. So bass, if you're fishing ponds, will often move up very shallow, trying to search all that new flooded water, catching on, you know, new bugs and stuff that are in there. So bass and ponds, look for them shallow right now. Creeks is pretty good. This is post spawn. That's before they really get too far out deep. They're still kind of hanging around their spawning area. They haven't moved out deep yet whenever it gets too hot. And this little drop in water temp from all the rain is going to keep them hanging around those areas for a little bit longer. So it's, you know, depending on where you're at, they're going to be kind of roaming with all this nasty weather. But once they're still in these creeks, look at docks and stuff like that, medium depth docks. They're not on the deep docks yet, but creek fishing is really good right now. The salinity of the river is going to drop back down. So I expect the bass fishing in the main river around our area, Northeast Florida, Jacksonville, all the way down to Palatka, is probably going to get a bit better. We have missed a lot of weeds. Me and Joe went hunting for eelgrass, and there was like none left, barely any hydrilla, anything too. That stuff's going to start coming back too with the salinity drop. So the river fishing's probably going to get a little bit better here. Well, let's jump the border. What's the fishing report up north, Frank? Frank's in Ontario. So for you guys that missed that earlier, all the way up in Canada, what's it like up there right now?
Yeah, it's like I was saying before, it's really different in the different zones. So you know, it's a beautiful day here today, but the water's still very cold. And for me, the season hasn't started. But people in the Niagara River, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie system, people are really hitting steelheads right now. And that's what's hot. And on the New York side, smallmouth, I think, is open as well, because I'm starting to see pictures from people going over to New York State and fishing. So we're literally right on the border. So you spend your $50 and you get your U.S. license, and you don't have to worry about, excuse me, inadvertently crossing that line that you don't have time to pay attention to, right? That borderline in the water. So. But, you know, for me personally, I mean, I'll go out for a walleye or something before the season for muskie starts. But right now it's about tuning up the gear, making plans for opening day, first Saturday in certain zones where I am in Ontario, open for muskie. And then the rest of the zones pretty much open the last Saturday of the month, or rather the third Saturday of the month. So right now, just going crazy with anticipation. It's a long way to wait throughout the winter. I do a lot of ice fishing. I like ice fishing, but you know, last Saturday we can't go for these kinds of fish until the season's open. So it closes in the winter and opens again in June. So it's a long haul, but like I said, we make it up a time on the water.
So the muskie season closes in June?
No, it opens in June.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's why everybody wants to go up there in June. I know the smallmouth spawn is like around the June time frame up there, isn't it?
Yeah. It's I don't know when they spawn, to be honest.
I know you go after bigger game.
Yeah. He doesn't mess with the bass too much.
He's like, that's bait.
Well, you know what? I mean, I was telling Bubba before, I got one on I threw a spinnerbait this year. I was going for muskie with a spinnerbait, and I tossed it, and it was literally like I hit this fish on the head because it was immediately on the hook. It was like it was watching me on the boat. Hey, you gonna throw that? You know?
Yeah, I hear they're way more aggressive.
It smacked it, and I got excited because I was about, I don't know, 80 hours into the world's longest muskie drought. My season last year was brutal, but at the end it was really good. But I thought that I was breaking my my seasonal drought there with that fish, and I pulled it in. We waited. It was a 6-pound smallmouth, beautiful fish.
That's a big smallmouth.
I wish I had light tackle. You know what I mean? That fish would have been so much fun. I was using obviously heavy braided line and a big 9-foot rod, but still, it was a beautiful fish.
Bubba, what he calls light tackle, we call a 7-foot medium heavy.
Yeah. It's a little bit. Yeah, that's the heavier end of what we'll do. We have to finesse a lot more some stuff.
I might be able to go up there with my punch rig, my 7'8" extra heavy. I might be able to do a little bit of damage then.
You know what? You don't want to stress these big fish, but more importantly, you don't want to stress your back when you're fishing from, like, I have a lund. I have a lund that has nice high ledges on it. So I get up and I stand on the ledges and I fish. And when we do figure eights, when the bait gets to the boat, you do your figure eight or your oval, whatever you prefer. And you don't want to be bending down if you have a short rod into the water every time. It makes for a really long day if you're bending over every time your bait comes to the boat. Man. So you want these long rods and obviously the heavy line just to get the fish in.
Right. Plus, like you said, the faster you get them in, the less stress you're putting on the fish.
Yep. Yeah. Again, people think they're big toothy monsters, but they're delicate, you know.
Oh, I can take you offshore Florida and give you all the toothy monsters you want.
Yeah.
I wouldn't lean too close to the water either.
That would be our biggest comparison, probably to like size and, you know, being able to do stuff like figure eights is some of our saltwater stuff here. We were talking earlier about like regulation and seasons and stuff like that. Now we do have to deal with something kind of unique, I guess. Well, not unique. It's different than what you guys have to deal with up there in Canada, where like the only thing really I can think of off the top of my head that we're fighting with on season right now is red snapper, which is, you know, saltwater fish.
Delicious.
Yeah. And if you ask, you know, Floridians fishing for them, they're everywhere. There's a lot of them. There's a ton of them. And they're getting, so the fight that we have with that is the state Fish and Wildlife Commission versus the federal, because, you know, a lot of that offshore saltwater stuff, the federal, you know, there'll be federal set regulations on it. So they have to, the Fish and Wildlife Commission for the state has to apply for the season to extend it or reduce it or whatever, how long it's going to be. So this year they're looking at 40 days. Last year was 43, but there was a proposal last year for like 3 days, like a 3-day season only. But if you go out there, yeah, they hit these wrecks offshore and stuff, and there's not the fishery for red snappers doing fine.
Right. There's video from scuba divers that go down and dive on these wrecks and reefs, and that's all you see. You can't even catch a grouper because you can't get through the red snapper. And the season that Bubba's talking about, just to clarify, is for the Gulf Coast side of the state, not the East Coast. So where we live on the East Coast, still no go on red snapper.
Still nothing there. Yep.
So you have to drive 3.5 hours to go to the Gulf Coast and catch any if you want, and that's one fish per person. So think about worth the 3 hours of diesel fuel, 100-gallon tank, you know, your boat to go out 20 miles, 25 miles, however far, 60 miles, go catch one red snapper.
Yeah. Jeez.
And they're, yeah, like I say, they're not hurting. They're doing pretty well. So I guess the conservation efforts are definitely working, and they're just going to wait until there's a crap load of them before they let us start catching them.
Well, it's all the recreational guys are saying you should restrict the commercial fishing or just ban commercial fishing for it, and all the commercial guys saying, you know, no, you guys they're just doing it for fun. We have to do it for a living. So somewhere somebody needs to meet in the middle.
Yeah, and that's I guess you know, one of the kind of differences in regulation that you might see down here is some of the offshore stuff you have to fight federal versus state regulation on with ours, you know, because we have the inshore stuff is all state done, and then you can get a mix if you're offshore with federal and state, and they kind of fight each other over it sometimes.
All right. As I was saying earlier, I had a fishing tournament. It was out of Trout Creek, which is the Green Cove area, out of the St. Johns River. Bubba went with me Saturday. Originally, he was going to be my guest during the tournament, but we had some guys fall out, and I had, you know, we couldn't do it. I couldn't bring him with him. So hopefully, Bubba, I'm sorry. Hopefully, I'll get to have you join our bass club one day and kind of see how we run things and get a little taste for club tournament fishing. But the funny story about that day is like I said, we went out, caught a little dink, caught some little ones, and we said, okay, well, let's go back across the river. And that's when the boat died. So I said, okay, we're going home. And thank goodness we were close enough and had enough power on the trolling motors, the trolling motor to get back. This was the one time I kind of wish I was like in Frank's situation, had a little kicker on the back there, eh? And be able to use that to get home. But we got on the trolling motor. yeah, I'm gonna have a little 15-horse Mercury back there now as a backup. But while we're doing it, you know, I'm kind of stewing in my own anger because now I got to shuck out more money to fix this thing again. Well, Bubba's kicked back and he decides he's going to troll a chatterbait out the back. And at the time, we were in like 60 feet of water over the channel. So we start getting closer, and I'm telling Bubba the trees are getting bigger, and we're talking, and the next thing I hear is Bubba going, hey, stop, fish on. I'm like, dude, you're so full of crap. No, I'm serious. And you look back, and the rod's bent over, and we're going over flat bottom. There's nothing there.
Nothing.
And it was like 9 feet of water. And I don't know how deep. How deep you think that chatterbait couldn't have been? What, 2 feet down, 3 feet?
Yeah, it wasn't too far down. Now, yeah, I mean, Joe is telling this from the front of the boat where he was. He was all up there stewing mad, foot on the trolling motor. I'm back there like this. I'm back there, feet up, eating a sandwich, chewing on some chips with the rod over here. And now, take in mind, this was a medium action rod. Trolling the chatterbait that we were
2.5 miles an hour.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 miles an hour over nothing. And it was pretty decent fish too. It was 2.5, 3 pound bass.
3 pounds.
Yeah. And I'm just, you know, sitting back, stuffing my face, just kind of cruising. You know, we picked the widest part of the river to break down on. And yeah, of course, you know, and at least it wasn't bad weather this time. The last time we broke down, it was horrible weather. But it just, you know, chatterbait stopped chattering. I'm like, oh crap, there it is. But yeah, it turned out to be a decent fish.
For fans of the show, for who watch me and Bubba's channel, the outboard, the Mercury on the back of the Skeeter now has a new name. We now refer to it as Timmy.
Yep.
Which Tim is our friend, our sidekick, or whatever you want to call him over at Kidwell Outdoors. He was out fishing today. That's why he's not on right now. See, we care about you guys. We put down the fishing pole for a hot minute so we could do this and tell you guys what's going on. But now the story behind calling the outboard Timmy is when we did our Swanee Bass expedition, we were going up to Santa Fe, and about every quarter mile, Tim would ask, how much further do we got to go? Or he would say, I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to fish. So yeah, that's why we call the Mercury Timmy now, because Timmy don't like going that far.
Yeah, Timmy wants to work when it wants to work, and Tim Kidwell wants to work when he wants to work too. So that's what they have in common. And you know, they work whenever they want to, and how much water they're going to cover that day is anybody's guess. We'll see.
All right. And speaking of tournament fishing, guys, if you're a fan of the Bassmaster Elite Series, and I believe FLW has the same thing, if you go on to Google and type in Bassmaster Fantasy Fishing, that's right, you heard me right, Bassmaster Fantasy Fishing, you can go in there and set up an account, and you can pick your team. You can pick different anglers that are going to be fishing that tournament for that weekend and see where you finish against everybody else. And the first place, if you win first place for that tournament, it's a $500 Bass Pro Shop gift card. And if you win first place overall for the season, it's a brand new rigged out Ranger bass boat. So, and it costs nothing. So just me, Bubba, I got Bubba and Tim in it. I've been doing it now. This is my second year doing it. And I think it's pretty cool. You know, like I like football, but I'm not all into fantasy football and stuff. I can more relate to fishing. So this is my season right now. I've been watching fantasy fishing. I think in our little group, I won today.
You did.
I beat Bubba and Tim. Yep.
Tim was like the outboard, kind of quit about halfway through because he didn't have anybody make the cut. He didn't weigh a fish the final day with his guys. And I think you had the 2 top 10 finishers. I think I had 1 or 2 guys that made the cut for fishing today.
Keith Combs and Jason Christie saved me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's but yeah, we're thinking about starting up fantasy fishing league for all of us, you guys that watch and follow our channels and stuff too. So let us know if that's any interest that you guys got in that. We can start up a league and get everybody in it.
And Frank, just to give you a little bit of pride, over on the FLW side, like the top 5 guys, 2 of them are from Canada.
Oh, cool.
And that's crazy. Like, how's a Canadian come down here and like win on Lake Okeechobee in South Florida?
Jeez.
That's nuts. I thought you would like that.
Good.
We got summertime. Summertime is now upon us down here in Florida, which Florida really only has like 2 seasons. It's like spring for like a week in summertime and maybe 1 day of winter. But as Bubba was talking earlier, we've been getting like a week's worth of rain straight, and before that, Bubba, would you say 19 days of a drought? Yeah,
19 days.
Right. A lot of lakes dropped down about 3 feet. I know my pond was one of them, and thank goodness for the rain. The rain murkies up the water from the runoff. It cools it down, at least that surface temperature. It cools it down some, and it can be good and bad depending on where you're at. I know some places it cools the water down and it gets the bass fired back up again. It's just that low pressure. It keeps them on the go all the time. Bob, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, summertime is really is one of my favorite times to fish, and it kind of gets into we both got old Rusty B follows us, both of us subscribes, and he got a few questions going in because we were asking for questions. And if any times you guys want to get any questions going, we do monitor the chats while this going. But if you also want to send them to us any other time, go ahead and shoot. But Rusty B was asking about nighttime fishing. That's one of my favorite things to do in the summertime. It's everything, if it's depending on the moon phase and everything like that, how active they are at night. But when our water gets so freaking hot, like our water, Frank, you probably never even had to deal with this. Our water will get over 90 degrees here. Everything gets lethargic. Yeah, everything gets. Yeah. So, early morning hours is awesome fishing. And Frank, don't be surprised this year if I'm not picking your brain and the other northern guys on some offshore stuff, because I really want to work on my offshore fishing game this year, because I'm like Florida bank beater kind of guy. That's what we do, is we do shallow stuff all the time. But when it gets so hot, they move out deep. And be honest, I'm clueless other than running around looking at a graph. So don't be surprised if I'm not picking y'all's brain this year.
You know what? It's funny. I was watching, ironically enough, an episode of Linder's Angling Edge, a recent one. Phil was actually getting on me to watch that. Phil from our forum there. And he was right. It was a great episode, but it talked specifically about early spring and targeting fish over open water, over the deep basins in the open water. Like in the case of their spot in Minnesota, they were talking about a 60 or so foot basin in this local lake. So, I mean, you identify those basins because that's where the bait fish are going to be. And you see the roaming fish. I guess, they're talking about just tossing, like you say, bucktails or your crankbaits over or dragging them over these these open pits in the spring. So that's something I'm going to be trying this year. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but definitely going to be trying to do that. That's right out of my comfort zone. Like you say, a bank beater. I love fishing structure and all that sort of thing. That's the fun part, even for muskie in the summer and getting when they're moving into the shallows, into the weed beds and stuff. It's a lot of fun, but I don't know. Got to change my tactics, and you can pick my brain. I'll let you know if I'm having any success with it. But
yeah, and always looking to get better and do different things for different times of year. But to get back to Rusty B's question, man, I love nighttime fishing, and summertime in Florida is one of the great times for nighttime fishing. Now, Mystery Tackle Box. You guys know I have Mystery Tackle Box. Mystery Tackle Box this month came through again with some awesome nighttime bait here. They got this specific to Mystery Tackle Box black and purple chatterbait. You guys know I like a chatterbait. I've been in love with a chatterbait ever since I caught that 11-pounder on it. But they got 11 pounds, Joe. And so they got one specifically, Mystery Tackle Box exclusive for nighttime fishing. It's called the Chatterbait Midnight. It's 3/8 ounce, black and purple, and these pretty cool little purple paddle tail to go with it.
Little shad.
Yep. And slap that on the back of that chatterbait. Really good. I do a lot of topwater fishing at night on a chatterbait in the summertime, or not on a chatterbait. A lot of topwater fishing.
As a stinger on that, you're tipping.
Yep. Okay. Just rig it up just like a jig, and it gives it a lot more, a little better profile and dunks really well. And then you can kind of work it like a regular jig a lot of times too, and it'll kind of stand up like a bait fish nosing down. And this one's a little bit smaller. What is this? It doesn't say how big it is. It's probably 3-inch. That one's a little bit smaller than what I typically use on it. But that dark color is going to work at night. That's my summertime go-to is nighttime fishing. I like early morning, nighttime. And whenever it's, mid-90s, 100 degrees and 90-degree water temps, I'm aiming to be off the water by 11 a.m. usually.
Yeah, something to add about that nighttime fishing, or I'm going to do like a two-part here. I'm going to be talking about freshwater nighttime and saltwater nighttime. Freshwater nighttime, the first thing I noticed, the first night tournament I had, your depth perception is gone.
Oh, God.
So if you can find some offshore structure like a deep brush pile or hump or something that you can pretty much look at your fish finder at and vertically jig or just throw over like blindly and not have to worry about hanging up, please go for that. It's worth the trouble. Trust me, because throwing at docks when it's pitch dark out with a black worm is a real challenge. I can't tell you how many times it took me here in the dock, clunk, until I finally was able to get it. But it's a big risk, but it's a big reward at the same time. I had one on easily over 8 pounds, and sadly it pulled the hook and came off. And you want it dark like that. Now, flip side, saltwater, light is your friend. If you can get out there on the river somewhere or wherever you're fishing, intercoastal, anywhere, find docks, bridges that are very well lit. It attracts the plankton, which attracts the shrimp, attracts the bait fish, which in turn attract your bigger fish, snook, tarpon, reds, sea trout. And if you can find a dock that has one of those green underwater lights, you fight everyone off of that spot and you anchor up right there. You will literally see the sea trout and everything just hanging out right there and the shrimp skipping off the top of the water.
That is one of my favorite nighttime, summertime fishing things. Actually, is trout on docks with lights. That's like Joe said, you can see the shrimp skipping off of it. And that's you start throwing, whether it's live shrimp, dead shrimp, DOAs work great. That's one of my favorite things to do in the summertime is get out there at night and beat docks with lights on them.
Yeah, I got 2 projects this year for nighttime fishing. One of them, Bubba, you're more welcome to join me for it, is we're going to try to do some kayak nighttime fishing. I want to make my own little green lights that kind of hang out over the side. We'll go somewhere where there's some clearer water, and hopefully we can draw the bait and everything to us so we ain't got to really move anywhere. And the second nighttime fishing is what I'm really excited about. is shark fishing at night off the beach. I think that is going to be epic.
I'm in.
I
Yes.
love that. That sounds awesome.
Right.
Yep.
You ain't got to fight off the sun or put on your sunscreen or nothing, man. Just have to worry about the gnats and a good time. Bring your bug spray. That's the only thing I can tell you. Now, paddling out to take the bait out in the surf is going to be a little sketchy. Don't watch Jaws the night before. That's for sure. But so there's my little take on nighttime fishing.
Now, and that's, summertime too, to touch on summertime again. Top water, me being a top water fiend, it is when the frog fishing just goes to town. Now, we do have something. Should I show them, Joe? Should I show the
secret speed snake?
The secret speed snake. It's a snake because it's deadly. And Frank saw this too in our chat there. I'm working on a new homemade hand pour. I threw this top water the other day. It's actually like a shad body, but it looks like a snake, but a nice little tail to it. I threw this top water the other day and got blasted with it. So I might mess with that some more too. But summertime is great top water fishing. Everybody knows that. But Joe said something about fishing kayaks at night. Now, I've done that before. I do like kayak night fishing, but this made me think of something that I wanted to ask Frank earlier. I don't see a whole lot of kayak fishing that far up north. Is that true? No? Why? Why?
I don't see a lot of it either. Most of the kayak people that I know in the community, in the muskie community, are in the United States. They're fishing the Cave Run lakes, some of the Minnesota lakes, the Nebraska lakes, the Utah lakes. I don't know. I really don't know why. It's maybe when the weather turns, it's harder for the kayak. I don't know. I don't know what makes it impractical, but I don't know a lot of people that do it up here. I think it looks awesome. I think it looks like a lot of fun, but in some of these bigger bodies of water too, where I live, the currents, you'll get murdered in a kayak. It would be physically impossible. We get huge drifts in the Niagara here, but I don't know. I don't know why they don't do it. I know a lot of girls that do it, strangely enough, and these girls are pulling in these 45-inch muskies into these tiny little pobies. It's pretty hard.
Yeah, I would think something like the the pedal drive kayaks up there on the lakes would be big thing. But yeah, I just noticed that I hadn't seen a whole lot of it up there. We fish mostly. I don't know if you're familiar with like our stuff here. Our main body of water is a giant river, so we know all about fighting current with a kayak. It's rare that we get somewhere that's not fighting current in a kayak, but
and the tides.
And the tides, yep. And, all three of us, Tim that's not here, all three of us kayak fish a lot. And we know all about fighting current with it. Yep. So we're actually we're going to take a trip next weekend to a lake with a kayak. And Joe was asking me, like, how far are we going to end up? Yeah, I'm not saying where it's at. Somewhere in north central Florida. And it's not Rodman.
It's between the Keys and Jacksonville.
Yeah, somewhere between Jacksonville and Lake George. That's what I say for everything.
Right. That's the truth.
Yeah.
I fished the Keys not too long ago. I was in Isla Morada. That's my Florida fishing story.
God, I bet you feel like a snowman just melting when you come down here.
Well, I mean, we get hot summers up here, but it's always nice. We actually got quote unquote stranded down there because there was some bad storms up here, so we couldn't fly home. This was a couple of years ago, and so I basically sat on this dock. It was a private dock to a condo area, and fished for barracuda the whole time. It was great.
If you're gonna be stranded, I mean, hey, can't think of a better place.
I love the bait. The bait is a plastic tube,
right?
Yeah, it's like a big piece of surgical tubing.
And if you're lucky, they'll last 2 fish, but they usually last 1. And you're dealing with a stupid aggressive fish when you're throwing pieces of surgical tubing and they're just destroying it.
That about sums up barracuda. Razor blade teeth, stupid, aggressive. That's barracuda right there.
We were talking about current. That kind of when you have a kayak, that's kind of what determines whether or not if I want to have a rudder on it or not. The Vibe, I'm lucky enough I can either choose to put the rudder down or I can choose to have the rudder up out of my way. When you got current and wind and they're going the opposite way and you're wanting to point a certain way, that's when the rudder comes in handy for me. Like if you're wanting to point into the current, a rudder is very helpful for that. And also when you're paddling too, let's say you're wanting to make a right-hand turn or something to get around a corner or turn around, you can push on that rudder and it helps you turn even sharper without kind of getting pushed off to the side. So if you can get a rudder that you can raise, up and down as you need it, then that's what I would choose on a kayak. And Bubba, you don't have a rudder on yours, do you?
I do not. No, that's another Rusty B question. Thanks, Rusty B. I do not have a rudder. Now, I think what Joe is saying is correct, is true. A lot of it's going to depend on the kayak itself, on how much difference it makes. Because he could tell you when we were down there fishing the Santa Fe River, which is, by our standards over here in Northeast Florida, the Santa Fe River is like a creek, but it's a fast flowing, river, and it's got a lot of current, moves pretty quick with some, kind of rocky rapids in a few spots. Joe's over there with his rudder spinning around in circles, and I'm sitting behind him just in a straight line with no rudder. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on kayak too, how deep it sits in the water, how the bottom of it is. But in general, he's correct. Rudder will help you a lot dealing with current, dealing with wind. Definitely big deal dealing with wind. But no, I don't have a rudder, and with my, big mobile floating couch, haven't felt a need for it yet. But I think a lot of that depends on the kayak.
Well, it's like what you said too. My kayak's back end heavy, and my back end doesn't help matters. So that's probably like my problem. I'm sitting nose up, and the current grabs that back end, wants to spin it around. But yeah, definitely, I think you were more. Everything was more centered in yours. Yeah, the couch with horns.
Right. Yep. That's so that you talk about kayaks, PFD use on kayaks. You see a lot of people fishing without them, a lot of people fishing with them. What PFD use in general. I know a lot of it kind of depends on the person. As long as you're following the, I don't know how they do it up there with their laws, or how much, what kind of general rule of thumb with PFD use is up there. Fishing tournament with Joe out of Whitey's not long ago. He even said this is the first time he's ever seen me put on a life jacket. Which
that's a bad day.
It's it's rough if I'm wearing one.
Right.
I just tend to follow the law on it. If it's rough water, I'll put one on. If we're hauling butt, I'll put one on. In a kayak, I use mine as a cushion. I sit on it.
Right. I kind of do the same with mine. I use it on my back. I don't have the inflatable ones. I use that for the bass boat because I like to have maneuverability, and sometimes it's good to just leave it on. Oh, the kayak though, I kind of have a rule of thumb. If the kayak ain't rocking, I just put it behind me, especially if I'm in shallow water. If there's no kind of motion, no boat traffic, then I just kind of relax. But if I get closer to the ocean, or I'm in the main river where I know the big tankers and stuff are going to be going through, and there's going to be big wakes, then yeah, I definitely put it on, because it's better to be safe than sorry. It's just like it's like wearing your seatbelt. It's better to have it not need it than need it not have it.
How strict are the laws on that kind of stuff up there, Frank?
Strict. You got to have them in the boat.
That's pretty much how ours is. Going off the top of my head, 16 and under, got to wear it. Got to have one in the boat for every person. I think type 3, you got to have a throwable. And then most of your tournaments and stuff require you to wear them while in motion.
Right. You definitely got to have it on. I can't even start up the main engine unless I am wearing that kayak, even if the boat's still on the trailer. Or what the heck am I saying? Wearing that kayak, wearing that life jacket. Also, when I was active duty and I was stationed over Mississippi, it's something to do, and I thought it was fun. I was a Marine Patrol officer with the reserves force with them. And something cool that I wish FWC would bring to Florida and other services, Coast Guard, Sheriff's Office, anybody, anytime they saw a kid, now when I say a kid, I mean like 12 and under, they had this big, thick stack of free Sundays from McDonald's coupons. You know, you give a coupon to McDonald's, they give you a free sundae. And anytime they did a boat check and they saw a kid wearing a life jacket, they would give the parents a couple of those free Sundays coupons to get their kid ice cream for, you know, wearing their life jacket. Now, I thought that was really cool. I would wish they'd bring that here.
Yeah, heck yeah. That would, you know, a little more incentive and stuff. You know, it's something we don't have a whole lot of interaction because to be honest with you, the FWC here is understaffed. You know, like the places that I usually go, I don't even see FWC around very often. You know, they usually hang around the busier ramps trying to catch the saltwater guys. It's a little bit, you know, heavier on regulation end of it. I will say in general, though, I'm a fan of the way the FWC does things. They're usually pretty good on the end of management and enforcement and stuff. Like we were talking about in the beginning of the show, be good stewards of the water. There's a reason for that kind of stuff, for all of our laws and stuff you got to follow. And I'm a fan of the way they do it. They never really give too many people, you know, grief that I've seen that I don't feel like is warranted. How's what do they call it up there in Ontario? Is it, because I know a lot of people are like DNR and stuff. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, we're MNR, Ministry National Resources.
Oh, so it's all national regulated up there? Federal, whatever.
I think it's provincial.
Oh, okay. And are they? How often do you see those guys? Because I know you're real spread out up there. Like there's as many people in all of Canada, almost a little bit more than what live in Florida in our state.
You know what? It's really weird. Like I don't see them a lot. You know what? I've been fishing for so many years, you know, and I don't see them a lot. But I get on a plane and I fly from here to Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is quite a ways northwest. And then I get into a car and I drive 4 hours northwest. And then I get into a little puddle jumper airplane and I fly into a fly-in resort called Anderson's Lodge on Lac Seul. And I'm out there and I see the MNR. They come over, and it's the weirdest thing because I've been fishing my whole life. I've seen them here and there. Don't get me wrong, not often by any stretch, but I literally go out into the middle of nowhere and I see them twice in a week. Like I have had an encounter. They came right up to our dock, walked right into our cabin, and looked in the fridge and made sure everything was on the up and up. And then the other
I'm glad FWC doesn't walk in my house and look at my freezer. God almighty. You imagine, thank God, Bubba, we don't have to get on a seaplane to go from like here to like Lake Seminole. Oh my God, I don't think I'd fish anymore.
There's a million great fisheries from here to that point. But, you know, most anglers, muskie anglers, you know, we identify a certain number of lakes as really the cream of the crop for muskie fishing. And
right.
Lac Seul is one of them. It's one of the best in the world.
Right. We got the same thing. We have bucket list lakes. There's like bass fishermen, of course, like Lake Okeechobee, Kissimmee, Falcon in Texas, like different places like that. Just same thing with saltwater, Bahamas, Islamorada, you know, Key West.
Capital of the world, right? Islamorada. That's what they were saying.
Right. Was it Venice, Louisiana, going to the rigs? I mean, everybody has their own, you know, Graceland that they want to go to, like you know, for bucket list of fishing. Let's see here.
So Phil just chimed in and said he's only seen the MNR once. Now Phil is our Bubba and our buddy, and this guy fishes all the time and is a lifer. So to give you an idea, and I've seen the MNR up there where he is. I've seen the MNR up on Lake Nipissing. They came and saw us when we were ice fishing.
Well, I don't think Bubba knows this, but here lately, I've been every evening when I get home from work, I've been doing a little cat fishing when I get home. Yeah. You want to see my setup? Here, I got the rig right here with me. Yeah, you see that?
I told him I've got this cat that started hanging around our house here, and you know, I'll go out there, I'll tie something on, and as soon as I start clicking and pitching and throwing something in the front yard, that cat will come out of nowhere. That's my cat fishing.
Oh yeah, the mouse just made a noise and it looked over at me. If you got, I never owned a cat before, until I got in this relationship with Jessica. If you guys know what I'm talking about, the video of me and her went fishing, and with her came a cat. And I was bored one night, and I came across my sheephead rod, my close quarters kayak sheephead rod, and it's got 30-pound, 20-pound braid on it. I said, if I rig this mouse on this little pole and act like I was throwing underneath docks practicing bass fishing, I bet I could have a lot of fun with this cat. And let me tell you guys, it is addictive.
That's your pitching practice right there, huh?
Right. Let's see if I can get a bite.
That's my cat. She only doesn't. She won't chase that. What's she doing?
Mouse.
No,
What was it? I got one of them too, and he'll chase this, drones, RC boats, and fish. I have a hard time fishing with him because anytime I catch a bass, he wants to grab it off the line, and when you go to throw it back, he jumps in after it. So yeah, that's my little catfishing rig. On side note, though, guys, be looking for a video. It's time to put some catfish in the pond. Right now, it's only bass and bluegill. I need to add about a half dozen channel catfish to kind of be the garbage cleanup crew, because when I go saltwater fishing, I throw the carcasses and stuff in the pond for the fish to eat. But I need some catfish to help out with that, so that's what helps out. Guys, I'm glad we have all y'all tonight. We've been going anywhere from 10 to 11 viewers. Go ahead, give us a shout out over in the chat. Interested to see where you're joining us from tonight. South Carolina, Florida, Canada is where our guest is from tonight. So we really like seeing what part of the country you're from, and we're trying to get more guests on to kind of broaden the horizon all over the country. There's another Bubba Bass that's on YouTube that's a subscriber of mine, and I'm a subscriber to his channel. We're going to try to get him. He's out in Arizona. So with Frank, we went to the Great North. Hopefully we can get Bubba on, Bubba Bass, that is, not Bubba Outdoors, and we can go out west and see what's going on out there and what kind of ideas and rigs and stuff they use out there. Hank, good to see you. Hank Snow Outdoors. He's here in Florida. Me and Bubba are also from Florida. Hank, we're up here in the Northeast, around the Jacksonville area.
We got the North Carolina guy chiming in over here. Old Fate, he's gonna be moving home to New Hampshire soon, back up, with the cold water stuff. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what's going on in Arizona.
Sweet, Rusty, I never knew you was from Tampa. I thought you were more local to us. That's cool. Oh man, we got Black Creek Customs. We got the Berg with us. I tell you, Black Creek Customs, I ain't never caught crap in Black Creek.
Hey, I was when we were pre-fishing, we were over there in Black Creek. I caught a couple little ones there, shook a couple.
Yeah, you tried to shake one, he didn't let go. Quentin, Good to see you. He's right here by us in Jacksonville. We got a lot of local folks. That's good. Hey, guys, spread the YouTube out. Let's spread the love. Let's get some more folks on here. This is pretty cool. Like, I don't see me planning a trip to Canada anytime soon. I would like to. I got my passport. Hey, I got to catch a big muskie.
I got Ottawa chiming in over here in my chat. I would definitely like. I'd be like what you were talking about. Getting distracted up there. I'd be like, "Where's the smallmouth at, guys?"
I can put you on smallies. I might not, ironically enough, be able to put you on muskies. They're so hard to catch here. But I'll be in Ottawa in 2 weeks for the opener. I'll be in actually Gatineau, Quebec, which is right down the street from Ottawa. So I'm going to be right up in that part of the country for the opener.
See, Bubba, that's what would be so cool. We have a guide now. We don't have to pay nobody. We can go up there, find us a nice hotel or a cabin or something, and Frank can give us the hookup. We can go out in the Lund with the kicker on the back, and get our rig and our lady luck there going.
In clear water, you can see the smallies. They're like little footballs in the water. We see them all over the upper Niagara. We see them everywhere. They're everywhere.
Real intentions. He just gave us the hookup on Black Creek. If you guys want to know what he's talking about, you can look at it in the chat. I'm not going to put it out there publicly, but real intentions. Thanks, brother, for the hookup. Yeah, the Devil Swords is definitely a Florida classic.
Oh yeah, it is. It's watching. I was telling Joe earlier, we're talking about the old Bassmaster fantasy fishing. I told him I was always rooting for Rick Clunn when they were fishing the St. John's a year or two ago. And he's out there whacking them on the Devil's Horse.
Yeah, How long have you had what made you get a kayak, Bubba?
At the time, I didn't have a boat. You know, it was a affordable entry other than bank fishing, so I wasn't just running around pond fishing and stuff like that, trying to bum off somebody else's boat. Fort Lauderdale chiming in, what's up, Spitfire? But yeah, that was my affordable entry into getting away from the bank, and it really, from what I spent on it and getting a cheaper boat at the time, it really fit the style of fishing I do a lot too. You know, if you guys have seen, my fishing is a lot of backwater, you know, even if it's fresh or salt. I love like creek fishing, skinny stuff, getting away from, you know, the urban area as much as I can while still in the city. But it really just kind of fit my style of fishing a lot.
Right. I mean, I got nothing against, like, you know, do what you got to do, guys, to get off the bank, you know, get to where the fish are. To me, a kayak is just another means to get to the fish. There's a lot of places I go that you couldn't even take a boat, but I've gone back there and just killed them in the backs of creeks, especially inshore saltwater. There's if you go to a lot of these little tidal creeks, there's deep holes and pockets, and when it gets low tide, they get stuck in there and they can't get out. So it's literally fish in a barrel, and you can just wear them out. And those big boats, even the skiffs, they can't get in there. So that's, you know, to me, it's just one more means and getting it. So guys, you know, I'm not going to hate if you got a sun dolphin from Walmart, you know, it's a means to get off the bank and get moving. And, you know, it's an easy way to haul all your gear too. You're not picking up 20 million tackle boxes and 5 poles and everything. It's all right there. It's just one thing to get you down the bank. So, you know, not hating on anyone. Great to have someone to kayak. You'll never hear me complain about too many people out there kayak fishing. Lots of different ways to mount stuff on a kayak is what's great about it. Also, you get to make it yours. Like when I do my videos, when I got it, I'm like, how in the world am I going to mount a camera on here so people can get a good view? So how I mount mine on my camera is I have one of those little igloo coolers. Little, I don't know. It's not even a 20 quart. I think it's like a 7 quart or something like that. And I mounted rod holders on the back of it. And I went to Home Depot, or no, it was Walmart, and they got one of those extendable car wash poles that you put a brush on the end of it. And what I did was I just took a GoPro tripod mount, drilled it on there. Now I got an extendable pole to put my camera on. And so I just stick it back there in the rod holder in the back, and now I got an over-the-shoulder mount to look over me. And if if I just want people to get a general view of what I'm doing, like the action's hot, and you know I want them to see the hook strike, you know, the hook sets and everything like that, then that's generally the angle that I use. Or if I'm paddling from one place to another. Now, if I'm doing something detailed, I want to show somebody something like the rig I'm using, or you know, like a fish, like, you know, how big they are, or, you know, how they're biting it or not, or the bait or something, then I generally put it on my head. Or top water. I love using a head mount, a first person view when I'm shooting top water, because you're always looking around, there's fish striking, and now the camera's going with you, and you can watch as you're watching your bait. You know, you might get a strike right here at your feet. And Frank, you like how many times you get muskie biting like right there at the boat?
You know, that's a really good question, and it depends where you're fishing and the time of year. If you're on a lake like Eagle Lake, which is one of those legendary lakes for muskie up here in Ontario, in the late summer and fall, you're going to get 90% of your strikes at the boat on any given day. When the fish are turned on, they'll pretty much hit all over the place, but generally, as a rule, on a lake like that, you're getting your play at the boat. You have to be good at the boat on a lake like Eagle Lake. But anywhere else, you know, you get a ton. That's why I said earlier, you know, if you go less than an 8.5 foot rod and you're fishing in, you know, anything more than a 17-foot boat with a decent deep haul, you got to have the length on the rod to do those figure eights. You can't half-ass your figure eights, because you're literally blowing half of your chances or more to land that fish. So happens at the water all the time. I love throwing top water baits as well, and I always have my GoPro rolling on my head when I'm fishing top water. Always.
Right. Bubba, did you see what Tyler Bean said in the chat about not having a kayak?
No, what did he say?
He said, yeah, and he said no Timmy's to break either.
That's true. That's true.
Oh my God,
burn, but it's true. Yeah.
Oh man, we're gonna need some water for that burn. God, I wish Tim was here for that. Oh man, but also I want to get a session because I will copy Tim in this. I kind of like how he has two cameras going at one time. I like how he'll have the session in front of him, facing him. And what's cool about that is, you get to show off your catch. And also, if you want a picture of that and, no one's around to take a picture for you, just kind of hold still for a minute, hold your fish and let the session record it. And then when you go to put it on your computer, you can take a still shot off of that.
No doubt. That's a really good tip. We did a couple of podcast episodes. The first one is with a bunch of guys called the Slobland crew. They fish for huge muskies out in Georgian Bay and the French River. And one man in particular there, he's been on some of the TV shows up here, and his name's Pat Tryon. We just did a 2-part interview with him, and he talks a lot about putting your GoPro, especially guys that like to troll around or have long days on the water. He sets his GoPro to a 20-minute loop. So basically when you hit save, it saves all the past 20 minutes and then starts another loop. So if you whenever you get a fish, you can hit that loop and save that footage, and just so you're not crushing your memory cards, right? With just endless recording. And he also brings a portable battery pack and plugs his camera right in. So
I'm glad you said that.
All day.
We were talking our last one about like must need stuff while you're going fishing. This thing right here is awesome. I bought this specifically for taking on the boat. That is a portable battery pack, and it takes forever to charge, and it will charge all day. That thing is definitely made it onto my must need stuff to have on the boat with me. Because God forbid something happened and my phone is dead, or if you're charging cameras like we're talking about now. But that is definitely become one of my must need things for. It's got a flashlight on it too. But that's, something that's tiny, inexpensive. I mean, it's like the size of a big cell phone or something. You can fit that in a tackle bag or anywhere on it, in a pocket even. But that's made it onto my must need fishing stuff as far as, charging cameras, charging phone. It keeps you from getting in trouble maybe out on the water if something's dead. If old Timmy craps out and you got no motor and you need some help, there you go.
Yeah, that's very likely to happen with my luck. That's what. But usually I bring I got 6 of the GoPro batteries, and what I did is I took one of those Walmart waterproof cases and I stuck some foam down in the bottom of it, and I cut it out so I can fit all the batteries in there to keep them from sliding around. And that's what I bring. I don't recharge the camera. I just grab a fresh battery, but that gets annoying after a while. Just stop. Hang on. I got to change the batteries.
I lose them, and I don't know which ones are. I forget which ones are charged and which ones
which one's dead. Yeah, it's but so as far as camera mounts for me, I don't like the chest one too much. I miss a lot of it with my hands being right here. I miss a lot of everything going on. But Joe talking about one in the front and the back. I've just been kind of lazy about it, honestly. But I have 2, action cameras, and I will usually, if I'm in the kayak, I keep one behind me mounted on a pole, over the shoulder kind of deal, stick it in a rod holder, and just let that one roll. And then other than that, I like the hat mount one myself, just because you could see the cast better. You could see, top water great. And whenever you see stuff blow up, so you're chasing it, looking around like a fiend, you can see all that kind of stuff better on a hat than a chest, I think. But yeah, I like running 2 too. Now, one thing I did do, that I haven't really seen a whole lot of people do is kind of easy trick, is I mounted a Scotty rod holder on the front deck of my boat. And so I've got like a pole with with the little GoPro mount deal, and you can kind of swivel it around, get that front view from that Scotty rod holder. You change the angle on it and all that stuff too.
Hey, Bubba, we got a question for Real Intention. He's wanting to know where you can get that battery pack at.
This one I got off of Amazon. It was like $15. This one is, what is it? 16,800 milliamp hours, which, if you nerd out on that kind of thing, That's a lot. But yeah, that one's like $15 on Amazon. My wife's got one that she uses just charging her cell phone because she sits there and plays on a lot. I was like, man, that ought to get me one of those for the boat. So look at, if you're not familiar with that kind of thing, talking about camera batteries too. My camera batteries, I bought some aftermarket ones with a higher milliamp hour rating. That's going to tell you, a higher milliamp hour is going to run longer. It's going to hold that charge longer. You've got an operating voltage usually in amperage, and then you've got milliamp hours. That's why it says hours on it, because that's how long it will run. Joe's over there catching cats again. But yeah, Amazon, look for the highest amp hour rating at a decent price. He's got one.
You got all. They're tricky now. Nowhere and they'll grab it, but they'll let go sometimes just as fast. Also, for that battery pack, guys, for our folks that live down here in the South, it's also the hurricane season's coming up. Great thing to have for when the power goes out. That way, you still got your phone. You might be able to make a call in case there's an emergency.
Yeah,
so
it is. Yeah,
another good reason to have one.
Yeah, that's one of our seasons, Frank. Is we've got hot, and then we've got hot with hurricanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to have a place down in Florida. I've probably been to Florida 100 times in my life. I've spent a lot of time down in the state.
Are you planning on coming back anytime soon?
It's funny. I was coming down a lot when I was working for an old company, and I would come down there for there's all sorts of conventions and conferences and stuff down there, and so I would spend a lot of time in Florida. But now that I'm not doing that anymore, I don't find that I get down there anywhere nearly as often. Like I said, I was there a few years ago, just kind of vacationing. Well, I took the wife. We went to New Orleans, and then we jumped over to Isla Mirada for a bit, and really nice extra forced vacation because of the weather, but it was a really nice stay there. So, but no, not as much anymore. I wish.
Yeah, I think say if you ever get a chance to go down there, man, love to see a video of Canadian fishing. Hang on, guys. If you want to see what I'm fishing for, this is her. Everybody, this is Wacko. This is the new pet in my house. Actually, this is the first cat I've ever had.
Based on the name, you need to switch to a wacky rig.
Yeah. I didn't name her, but that's her first guest appearance on there. She's pretty cool. She's looking for the mouse right now, but I done reeled it in. She's under her. This is what I call the dock. That's what I call the table. And she gets underneath here. I gotta skip it underneath the dock to get her.
She's holding structure.
She's holding structure. Must be a front coming.
Frank, or even any of you guys in the chat, any of you guys hanging out, you ever make it around Jacksonville way? I'm sure, I'm definitely myself, I'm sure Joe too, would be happy to take any of you guys fishing, get on some of that local stuff. Frank, you come back through, swing through Jacksonville, man.
If I come over to Jacksonville, you better take me fishing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right, we're the cheapest guides you will ever have. I guarantee it.
Joe operates on pecan swirls, and I run on grizzly.
Right. That's all you need. You got a bag of pecan swirls and grizzly, you can go far on fishing down in Florida.
Yeah, that stuff is, but sounds good to me.
Pecan swirl. I don't know how to describe pecan swirls. It's like a cinnamon roll with like pieces of pecan in it, kind of like that, but with no frosting.
Yeah, it's like a running gag. He's always got it in the boat of the truck every time we go fishing.
That's my breakfast. That's my fishing breakfast. It's quick. You just open the pack and eat it. I don't have to cook nothing. Plus, I don't feel like stopping at McDonald's. I just get it at the gas station. People ask me because a lot of people are curious about this whole YouTube thing, and they're like, "How do you know what videos to put up, and how you know which ones people are going to watch?" And to be honest with you, I have no idea. So a lot of times, what I do is if I just go fishing, I'm like, you know what? If it's a good day, people would like to see this. I know I like watching fishing videos, and there's sometimes I watch them and I learn things I never even knew. Like there are different tricks and stuff. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna try that next time. It gets you to like try stuff like long lining crankbaits. Never long line a crankbait in my life. I was watching Mikey Ball's video, and he was killing it long lining a 10XD crankbait. So I bought one. We got a lake similar to what he was fishing, and I want to try it. As soon as I get the boat back. All right, we'll troll the motor over there just to be safe. We're going to go to Kingsley. I want to try that. But like I said, going back to it, I don't know. Just when I caught my personal best largemouth, it's good just to have a camera rolling because you never know when that 11 pounder is going to hit, that alligator is going to jump in the boat, or that video is going to go viral. Recently, my most successful video right now is my 4 do-it-yourself inshore saltwater rigs. I did that video thinking maybe I was going to get a couple hundred views and I could help some new people that are new to saltwater fishing so they don't go to Walmart and buy those, bridge fishing rigs that got all the jewelry and stuff hanging off of it, and show them something like my dad passed on to me about how you can just use the main line that your pole is on and make your own rigs. And if something breaks off, you lose that hook or you lose that weight. You're not losing the entire thing and leaving it in the water for someone to get hung up on. So I made that. Thought I was going to get a couple hundred views. Right now I'm at 6,000 and counting. It blew up. I had no idea it was going to be that much. And then other videos where you think it's going to blow up, you only get like 100 of them. Like I did one for my GoPro, improving GoPro audio with a waterproof case. I showed how I took a waterproof case and cut out a hole just big enough where you could plug in the external mic and it would still be tight to keep rain and stuff out like that. That's been up for maybe a year now. I only got like 200 or 300 views on it, and I thought that would blow up. So, I mean, you really never know. Link to video, guys that are trying to do something with their YouTube channel. A lot of times they try to do at least 10 minutes, at least a 10-minute video. That way they can get the ad revenue off of that to help them with their next, fishing adventure, their next rod they want to get, or the next camera case or something to help them make better videos. And then a lot of times if you just want to do a quick update, and then it'll be however long, or just, like 4 minutes or something, or just give somebody a heads up or something like that. I know Bubba, he really doesn't care how long his videos are. I got a feeling.
No, I'm not. I'm not view hunting or subscriber hunting or too much of nothing. I've had ones that do hit though, that get a lot of views, and it does seem like it's mostly the DIY stuff, like the DIY Teckle sprinkler frog I did. That's at a couple thousand views. I mean, it doesn't help that was probably at the time while that thing was all hyped up. But I want to do some some DIY of the homemade hand pour stuff. But it seems like a DIY ones hit a lot. The other ones you think wouldn't, or that don't necessarily. Like I thought that PB, 11 pounder would be big, but I got probably a couple hundred views on that. I mean, it seems like that kind of thing. DIY stuff really does hit, and some of the other stuff that you think doesn't.
Real Intention says memories is why he records it. I kind of agree with that. I mean, definitely memories, because there's videos, like I'll go back and watch videos I did like a year ago. I'm like, oh man, that was a good day. But another reason I do it, especially with bass fishing, when it comes to flipping, is you'll set the hook on a fish and you'll be like, how in the world did I lose that fish? I gave him all day. I stuck my whole back into that hook set. How did I not stick that fish? How did he come off? Well, when you record yourself, it's just like a football player, somebody going back and watching it. I can go back and see what I did wrong on that hook set and be like, that's why it happened. Now, you can learn from that mistake. Or, if in Bubba's case, when we went fishing and we thought the Swanee bass big catch size limit was 15 inches and it was really 14 inches, you're throwing them back. You might have that screenshot of having that fish on the board and how much it weighed. And that's another thing too. It's a good record keeper. Coming up here in a month will be 1 year when I stock my bass in the pond, and we're going to be doing that video. So guys, come late June, I'm going to go out there and we're going to see how much these bass have grown in 1 year. And I'm going to be using that video also as record keeping for me. So I can actually say, like, okay, this is the first bass. The first bass is 15 inches and he weighs this much. Instead of me having to write it down, I can just go back and watch the video.
What kind of bass you got in that pond?
We are now calling them honey badger. No, what was it? Yeah, honey badger bass. You guys are wondering why we're calling that, because these bass do not give a fornication about anything. To explain that further, I went out the other morning in the pond. I was throwing a toad. I got toad fever from Bubba here lately. I've been throwing a topwater toads. I hooked one. When he came up, he threw up an old white fluke bait that my dad uses when he comes out here. Oh man, we got realistic fishing on. We got someone with 16,000 plus subscribers. I would love to get his autograph. Thank you. Glad to have you, Alex. Thanks for joining us. But anyway, back to the honey badger bass. Sorry, I got starstruck when Alex popped up in the chat. Alex, here's to you, a nice adult beverage. Anyway, he threw up a white fluke. It sank down at the bottom. It was in reach where I could take my pole and get it. And as I was getting the white fluke and pulling it back with the rod against the bottom of that, another bass came up to it and ate the fluke from underneath my pole. I'm like, are you kidding me? I had my freaking Vexen rod right on top of the fluke, and he came up under the rod and ate the fluke from underneath it.
It's so realistic, so lifelike.
A zoom fluke was so realistic. He thought he was going to save that fish trapped underneath the rod. So in order to get the fluke back, I took the toad and flipped the toad back, and he ate the toad as well. And it caught him. He was about 1.5 pounds. But they're growing quick. They should be at 2 pounds here next month. That's the goal. They're supposed to gain 2 pounds a year, so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, it's all about pond management. I look forward to that video and then some pond management videos as well.
Right. The bluegills, there's some bluegill in there over 1 pound already. Yeah. It's insane.
Yep. If you manage the forage right, you can get some big bass out of it. Well, guys, I mean, we killed over an hour here. I say we wrap her up. What you think?
Definitely. Yeah, someone said realistic. That's what brought Alex over here. Guys, we're going to open up some Q&A. If you got any questions, go ahead and hit us up. We will be looking forward over here in the chat. Hit us with any kind of questions you got. We'll answer them, be it about YouTube, GoPros, fishing, saltwater. And take advantage of our special guests here. We got Ugly Pike, the muskie fisherman extraordinaire from the Great North in Canada. If you got any questions about muskie fishing, go ahead and ask Frank about it while we got him here, because I don't know when we're going to get him back. I'm sure he's a busy man. We really appreciate him coming on tonight. That's for sure, Frank. Thank you very much.
Lots of fun hearing about you guys and the baits you're throwing and the fish you're targeting. It's a different world, and it's we're the same kind of people, I think, just driven to outdo our personal best and to figure out the complex equation that is our local ecosystems, and to try to keep getting a leg up on the fish species we're targeting through practice and research. So it's all the same, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's something that really goes worldwide. Fishermen can relate anywhere in this world. Interesting thing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, Frank. The name Ugly Pike comes from muskie, comes from like a Native American, or what you guys call them, First People or something like that in Canada, don't you? The Native American name for muskie actually means ugly pike, right? Yeah,
the Ojibwe is the tribe, and yeah, the name Muskellunge. It's their pronunciation. We call it Muskellunge, but yeah, the translation is ugly pike.
They're like, oh man, that's an ugly pike. They gave it a different name.
That's why we
learned something new. I learned something new. I didn't know. I always heard Muskellunge, and I thought that was just muskie was short for Muskellunge. Like Muskellunge was like the the technical name for it. But I didn't know it was Native American name for ugly pike. So like I said, the Florida boy learned something new.
Yeah, so that's why we picked that. It's we get a lot of people, or we did rather in the earlier days, get a lot of people online sending us pictures of pike and stuff they caught. And I love pike. I call it the gateway fish to muskie, because it's you get a huge pike in the boat and you wonder what eats this. What takes this thing out, and then you go up the chain until you hit the apex, right? And but now I think a lot of people know our brand, and if you go onto our Instagram page, you'll see pretty much nothing but muskies and stuff like that. And yeah, we're muskie freaks. That's all we do. That's all we think about.
Yeah, I got a tank of the Gateway fishing drug right here behind me. All these little bluegill swimming around. They're they're going to be moving to a new home, and also I'm going to be moving my bait shop talk to a new home. I'm going to have the big 120-gallon aquarium behind me, hopefully here one day. And we'll have the Swanee bass and some other stuff swimming around behind me. But we got our first question for you there, Frank, from Realistic Fishing, Mr. Big Time himself, but he keeps it realistic. We appreciate you for that, Alex. Anybody can do what Alex does, fish from the bank, go to Walmart, get your stuff, and rock out and enjoy some fishing. But anyway, he was wondering if there's muskie in Tennessee. Do you know, like, the range, like how far south muskie go?
Well, they would definitely be prone to being in Tennessee because they're, you can get them in Kentucky. I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are in Tennessee.
They are in Tennessee, and there are some even farther south that have been stopped, that have been put there and then kind of taken off after that. But they do occur in Tennessee.
I think FWC would frown upon me putting muskies in the pond.
We got enough crazy critters already. I don't know if we need if we need muskie.
I wonder what the Seminole word for mudfish is.
Damn it. I always say tell Frank, because you guys might wonder how we got hooked up with a Canadian here. Both of us, he's got on the jiu-jitsu shirt over there. Both of us found kind of like a subgroup of a bunch of MMA fans that fish and just outdoors in general, and kind of got hooked up from there. That's where Phil fishes and Vapor in my chat, both of them from the same spot. Good group of guys. Like we were talking about, fishing just transfers worldwide. We all kind of get it. But I guess the biggest thing we've got that compared to a muskie, in freshwater anyways, like a gar. That's what I always tell them. And look at him. He's over there shaking his head. I'm
saying pickerel. That's what I'm going with. I'm going with a chain pickerel or a jack.
Well, yeah, same family, but I'm going on size. Size.
A gar is not the same family.
No, but I'm chain pickerel is. But size is
too. Where you're coming from, Bubba. I totally see where you're coming from. We've got gar down here too. I was fishing in a lake called Lake St. Clair last year, and you see these patches of gar, and they're everywhere, jumping. They weren't as big as the ones that you see down south, but they get them pretty big up here. But yeah, the chain pickerel are like what we call northern pike, and they're very, very similar too. It's
Have either one of you fellas heard of a camera called a water wolf? No.
A camera?
It's a camera called a water wolf.
Musky bait, but not a camera.
Well, what brought it up is a lot of musky guys use it. I'm going to demonstrate with my little catfishing friend here. It's an inline camera. It takes a micro USB card, and you have your bait, and you tie on your leader like you would if you were using like a Carolina rig or something like that. And then it sits on a piece of wire, and it sits right here, and you tie your main line to it, and there's a piece of wire that the camera sits on, and you tie your leader to your bait right here. And as you pull your bait through the water, that inline camera is recording your bait. So you can actually see the fish come up behind it and grab the bait on camera. It's pretty cool, and it only costs like $100, $115.
I've seen the footage. Yeah, I just didn't know what it was.
Same thing. Yeah, I've seen the video, but didn't have any idea what it was called. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I've seen guys do it with pike and bass and offshore fish and muskies too, but I'd be scared to death of a muskie eating the camera as well.
Joe, I've got your Florida pike right here, buddy.
That's him. That's the jackfish right there.
Yeah, we got to figure out something to do with this. I've got it sitting back here as an ornament right now. I don't know what we're going to do with it.
Well, bring it with us. We're going to have a Frank be looking for this one. We're going to do a video where me and Bubba do something different. We don't go after bass. And we're going to go out and we're going to go catch chain pickerel. We're going to dedicate it to you, Frank, at that. We're going to do muskie hunting in Florida.
Cool. Next best.
Maybe we can beat the state record. What's the state record? I think it's like 6-7 pounds.
I have no idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the state record for chain pickerel down here. Right. You would probably use that for bait.
Well, we have this isn't even a big bait. This is a normal size, just to give everybody. This was just what I had laying around, but to give everybody that's not a very good perspective, but this thing's I don't know, 6 or 7 inches or so. It's called a Boss Shad, and it was just sent to me by the guys who make this because we actually did a session with him. We're gonna put it live in about a month, but that's pretty neat bait. The colors, the painting, and everything.
Yeah, I love that paint on it. It looks sweet.
But you got to wonder. I mean, they say sometimes, like I know that these happen to be very productive baits, but you got to wonder. We talk about baits that catch fishermen and baits that catch fish. I don't know if that's something you go through as southern anglers and whatnot, but
oh yeah,
ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
You know,
if they're like, oh man, that swim bait looks awesome. It looks just like a shad. I gotta have it. $23 here to take my money.
yeah.
But I generally try to keep two kinds of like colors. I just generally have like a shad color, or I have like a bluegill imitation, which is generally like green pumpkin or some kind of imitation like that. And then I'll have like one random neon color in there. I don't get too crazy. Like I don't get pinks and purples and peanut butter and jelly colors and stuff like that. Bubba, he makes his own colors.
Yes, I do.
A bunch of stuff in the back of the truck in a tackle box until it all melts together.
Yeah, it looks great. It's completely natural, whatever redneck color it is. Right. Now, talk about mystery tackle box. I got these things in there. I don't know if you can see that. It's like pink, purple. That's going to get melted down and re-dyed to something else. It's on a pink worm. Sorry.
The reason we got started on it, Bubba got on it before I did, but here lately, you ever just looking I don't know about musky fishermen, how much soft plastic you guys go through. Y'all might do it with big swim baits, but you just look down on the bottom of your boat and there's just torn up worms everywhere, and it's literally you're just throwing money away. When I could just take those worms, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just torn up. I can cut them up, melt them down, and press them into a new mold. So I got my first mold in the other day. It's a Cinco mold. Now it's got to get the injector and stuff, and that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start recycling my lures, and as I start getting better, I'm going to start making my own. So I'll be looking for that video. Oh my God.
So as bass guys who love fishing for bass, you mentioned rubber. I love throwing rubber primarily for jigs when I jig for muskie, but this is called I have massive hands too. This is a Little Ninja from Red October Baits.
Little Ninja,
based out of Western New York, and these things.
I don't want to see the big one.
Yeah, what's the big Ninja look like?
Hang on a second.
Oh, he's got a big Ninja too.
I was gonna say it's like Bubba's suppository.
Yeah, well, I like the ones with the little fingers on the back of it.
It's easier when you got to remove it.
Yeah. But yeah, like Joe was saying, what I started doing, making my own molds and stuff, was just that, with the leftover stuff in the bottom of the boat. And
hey, quit talking. He's showing us the big Ninja.
It's funny. I'm not running to my tackle box to get these. I'm in my living room, and they're buried in a thing in my living room just because I need, I got a problem.
I think we can all relate to that.
Right.
I'm on my front porch and look behind me. There's a tackle box. There's a lure. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spools of line back here. Yeah, I think we can all relate.
These are really great.
This table would be covered in bass lures right now if I didn't have a birthday party yesterday here at the house. That's the only reason that everything got put up.
But these are monster tubes, and they have single hooks. So in the Niagara, where we have a gravel base, you can really hammer these off the bottom and not worry about catching anything you're not supposed to, any fouls or anything like that, or weeds, because the single hook's really good for it. There's a small hook that comes out the top and a single hook on the bottom. These are not rigged up yet, obviously, but and they're great for just making a ruckus in the bottom of the riverbed and seeing if you can piss a muskie off. Really good fish. This fish saved my trip, one of my big trips I took a couple years ago, and got me a beautiful fish up in Eagle Lake.
Hey, Frank, could you do me a big favor? Could you send Bubba that big, it doesn't have to be a new one. Send Bubba that big Ninja. Could you send one of those down here for me?
Yeah, for sure. I gotta get a rig. I gotta order a rig, but I know the guy who invented this lure. His name's Mark Arena from Red October Baits. We did a podcast. We actually went over to his plant and watched how they were made and sat and talked to him about the process. So I'll reach out to him and I'll get you one of these big guys.
Yeah, because I would love to blow some people's minds on Kingsley Lake with one of those things.
You might need to get some heavier line on your reel.
The lake that we're talking about is a semi-private lake. It's on a military base here, but it has produced some of the most giant, like consistent giant bass in Florida. Like there was 3 13-pounders caught out of it last year. And like I said, if anything is a joke, I would love to see people's face with me standing on the front deck of my boat with that giant tube, just throwing it out there in 20 feet of water.
You'll get a big bass will hit this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that looks, I mean, we have, tubes like that size for saltwater stuff too.
Yeah, they work good. Tubes are, the action of that skirt, it brings the fish in. And this is going to be a big part of my game this year. There's a lot of different baits for jigging, but and you said soft plastics. We use something called the Shadzilla up here. You mentioned the term water wolf before. Water wolf is actually also a tackle company that makes a bait called the Shadzilla. That is a rubber. That is phenomenal. It's a big paddle tail, and like the ones you showed, but 50 times bigger sort of thing. Great baits. And I actually just bought like a safety pin rig with a weight on it that you can attach to your big Shadzilla and bring it down 20, 30 feet if you want to go deep for those fish that are clinging to the bottom. So I'm really looking forward to using a lot of plastics this year. I like plastics. Nice.
Well, I look forward. I hope you record some of that so I can watch it. I'd love to see a muskie eat one of those big giant tubes or a swim bait or something like that. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
And Black Creek Customs, just so you know, you got a new sub, man. Thanks. Guys, if you're watching this, please go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the show. I'm glad we're starting to get more people interested in this. I think before we only had like 5 or 6 people watching this. And I'm glad that, we're on our 5th episode of Bait Shop Talk. I really hope that we get this going, and I hope that we make it better. Like I was saying about when you guys watch and leave thumbs up and stuff, it helps us to make the show even better. Those guys like, Mikey Balls and, Lake Fork Guy and all that stuff, they have the money to get all that cool editing and drone shots and stuff like that because they have the money from YouTube to do it. I'm just a guy. I'm still working, a regular job, working law enforcement. Bubba's doing his job. And we're just doing this on the side of our own time. We could just go out and be going fishing, but we thought, what the hey, let's record it and maybe we can help some folks out. Be good to see how, to interact. YouTube's a good community. And I'm definitely would like to up our game, just like anything else, especially with this. So, hitting that like button definitely helps us out. And, you always hear a lot of people say it, but it really does. And, instead of wearing this goofy headset like I'm calling plays for the Jaguars, I could have a nice mic down here where you can't see it and you sound like nice Casey Kasem and have a better webcam.
We use mics for our podcast. They're not that bad. We have Yeti mics. They're pretty good. They sound good.
Right. And maybe Bubba can use that money to hire a babysitter so he can make his podcast better.
Yeah, that would help.
we strive to record before Chris's kids come home because our studio is in his basement. So I feel you on that. But then his kids do something great, like bring us beers and stuff, and it's like, hey, kids, come on in.
Oh yeah. They think they're doing something important. Like, yeah, we're helping the grown-ups get a beverage, which I don't mind at all. But guys, all right, we're gonna call it. We definitely went way over the hour mark, but it's worth it because we got our special guests. And we got Ugly Pike from Canada. We definitely appreciate him coming on. Like I said, guys, we would love to get more guests. I don't care if you have 2 subscribers or, 20,000 or 2 million subscribers. We'd love to have you on as a guest. It's like we were saying earlier, we may fish for different species, but as fishermen and outdoorsmen, we all strive for the same goals. So if you're interested in becoming a guest, go ahead, shoot me a private message, hit me up, go to Dinsmore Outdoors on Facebook, and you guys can hit me up and come on as a guest. We'd love to have you if you're, you can tell us what you've been up to, share a little something with us, and, it's just a good conversation. Chilling Sunday night, getting ready to go back. Everybody's getting ready to go back to work. I'm sure everybody's firing up the TV and, thinking about on the weekend what you did. But we definitely appreciate you taking the time to join us. Some of us like Rusty and Real Intentions, and man, a lot of guys to stay with us this whole hour and a half. Hank Snow's been with us this whole time. We really appreciate you staying here with us and watching it, joining us here on Bait Shop Talk. So, Alex, Realistic Fishing, that's the challenge for you. We'd like to invite you to come on as a guest here on Bait Shop Talk. Guys, normally Bait Shop Talk is every second Sunday of every month at 7 p.m. But last Sunday, we had to postpone it because it was Mother's Day. We got to let you spend time with your moms. Tell the moms how important they are. So that's why we didn't do it last Sunday, and we had to do it this Sunday. So that means it's going to be coming up even sooner this time since we pushed it back. So every second Sunday of every month at 7 p.m., expect to see Bait Shop Talk. We appreciate you watching. I'm Joe with Dinsmore Outdoors. Remember, we do more in Dinsmore. And as always, we got Bubba with us. Bubba, Go ahead and say goodbyes.
Yep. Thanks, everybody, for joining us again. Big thanks to Frank. Guys, go out there and get you a Vexen rod. They sponsor Joe. Subscribe to the Ugly Pike podcast on iTunes. Check out the uglypike.ca. We definitely thank Frank for spending an hour and a half with us here, just shooting the breeze. Appreciate you guys coming on, and always looking for guests and always looking for fun challenges.
Yeah, see, there it is right there. I found it. I'm getting the Ugly Pike podcast right now as we speak. There she is.
Appreciate it.
No problem. I am now a subscriber to the Ugly Pike podcast. I can't wait to hear him. I'm like, yeah, man, I had that guy on my podcast. It's so cool. All right, guys. Have a good night, man.
Thanks, guys.
No problem, Frank. We hope to have you back soon.
Take care.
You too. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.